We don't study it. We don't study the history of slavery in Africa.
We do study the history of slavery in Africa, but we don't. It's more, we study facts and what happened. We don't learn stories.
And with all this racism that permeates our country today, I thought it would be easy for people to come up with the name of a public figure who was racist. It wasn't. Of the 50 or so people I interviewed on camera that see racism daily, none could come up with the name of a public figure that was racist. I had to offer a suggestion myself, admittedly to stimulate conversation.
I would say Jesse Jackson is not a racist at all. He fights against racism. He fights for peace. He wants justice, and he tries to do what he can to bring together that justice and peace. And he wants people to be united as well. As far as Reverend Jesse Jackson using racism as profit, like I say, he's a man, a good man, and he has done some things that we probably aren't proud of, but he sticks by what he does.
Do I think Jesse Jackson is a racist? I guess I don't. I guess I don't. I think he's an advocate for black people, and I was going to say his people, and that's an important role, but I've never thought of him as a racist.
So you said that being an advocate for his people, for black people, is a good thing.
I do think that.
Can you name an advocate for white people?
Can I name an advocate for white people? Wow. Specifically for white people.
Catch that? Being an advocate for one's racial group is an important role, as long as one's racial group is not white people. The very idea of being an advocate for white people is offensive, mostly to those calling others racists.
I got the impression on the mall, they have Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis, that it's like this mall here. They want to keep black people off of the mall. There's a lot of white guys up and down 16th Street Mall that are soliciting, and that pisses me off, because I've been at one point in my life where I was penniless and didn't have anything. I never panhandled. I never begged for money. And that pisses me off. So I told the guy who solicited me yesterday, happened to be a white guy. If he was a black guy, I'd be pissed off too. I told him, I said, I think the welfare department is right down there. And that's another thing that pisses me off. I did everything I was supposed to do, never broke the law, always tried to work for a living, and I still get treated like a second-class citizen. I risk my life for my country.
Who's treating you like a second-class citizen?
Mostly white males.
I do believe that our culture is racist.
Who's it in benefit of?
White males.
White males?
Yeah.
You mentioned the racism, but where's the racism in this?
The racism is he's paying particular close attention to me because I'm in the company, my girlfriend's white, and I'm in the company of a white woman.
This isn't a dance club?
Yeah.
A disco?
Yeah.
But can you ever see a situation where African-American men might try to intimidate white men in that same situation?
Yeah, but not as much.
Not as much?
It doesn't happen as much.
I've seen a lot of black people make white people uncomfortable. And sometimes, I don't know if it's so much racism or sometimes it's just that they want to get back at what they consider to be the man.
One of the things that happens in America is that anything that happens to white people from another race is generally not looked upon as a hate crime. In a lot of ways, it looks as retaliation.
You made me uncomfortable, you pissed my parents off, and I grew up in this country, now it's my chance to get you back.
This is more of today's conventional wisdom in our conversation. When whites mistreat people of color, it's always racism. But when whites are victims, we must step back. We have to look deeper for the root causes of said mistreatment. A glaring double standard. Are white people right to be a little afraid of blacks?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah?
They intimidate them because now it's more interracial.
You know, it's kind of, I don't know.
No, wait a second. The Filipinos are all looking for money. And what did you say? The other one?
Like Jewish people, they're cheap. I mean, everybody has like their own stereotypes.
Give me some more of those. Those are
I don't know. I can't.
Black people.
Black people were criminals.
That's a hard question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one, actually.
If I were to hear someone say African Americans are committing more crimes than whites, I would not be offended because it's true. I see it on the news. When you turn on the news, it's mainly an African American who intruded a home, did a drive-by shooting, gang-related drug bust. So that's all you see pretty much is African American crimes. So no, I would not be offended, but I would agree.
If you're thinking of a black person and the stereotype you've ingrained in your head is this, this person is maybe a criminal.
Why do African Americans get the bad rep?
Because we do the most crucial stuff around here. We're just like on that point where like, if we want to do something, we'll do it and not think twice about it and just go out there and do it again and again, or do it even more worse than we did before.
African Americans are involved in gangs, they're involved in drugs, they're involved with just the street life.
If someone were to feel that blacks are more criminally inclined than whites, would they have any justification for that?
Unfortunately, I think yes.
I don't feel like I had to go through all this racism stuff because I'm African American.
Now, what would you say to the guy that says, hey, you know what, African Americans commit half the crimes in this country. Of course we should look at them more carefully.
Damn. I mean, we do some crime around here, but I'm not going to say we do half of the crime. Yeah, African Americans are like that, but it's not all African Americans around here doing all the crime like that. You know, there's all sorts of other ethnicities that do all that.
If you were a taxpayer,
I was a taxpayer,
and you heard about somebody breaking into a house, how would you feel if you saw the cops beating them down?
On some real shit, I don't know. I'll probably try to tell them to take that to the courts, because I don't see how they gonna beat somebody up. Yeah, they broke into a house, they was in the wrongdoing, but at that same point, you can't just beat somebody up because they broke into a house.
How about if they broke into your house?
If they broke into my house, I promise I'll kill them motherfuckers.
Now, what would you say to the guy that says you're making the definition of a criminal?
Well, I already know I'm a criminal. I've been locked up since I was 11.
But you say the cops are racist, but yet you're saying you're a criminal.
I'm a criminal, but yeah, on that same note, when we're not doing nothing, that's when they want to come up here and fuck with us.
Most of the violent crimes are committed by white males. I mean, who are all the mass murderers out here? They're not black people.
All of the mass murderers you're saying are white?
Majority of them are white, or Hispanic.
How about the majority of the armed robbers and the rapists? Aren't they black?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
A common debating tactic of the believers is to flat out deny facts that we all know to be true. When Martin employs this tactic, he places the burden of proof upon me, knowing full well what a distasteful job it would be researching rape statistics. This shocking fact is one of many not reported to the American public. We're bombarded with messages telling us that racism is evil. But if selecting people for discrimination based on their skin color is racism, and it's a bad thing, well, isn't selecting people for rape because of their skin color also a bad thing? In fact, isn't it a much worse thing? And that's quite another disconnect. In other words, the conventional wisdom on racism says that I should be concerned when I hear that somewhere a white person might be persecuting someone because of their skin color. I should make it my business. Yet, God forbid that I become concerned when I hear that white women are being raped because of their skin color 100 times a day, right now in America. Well, we know what happens to people concerned about those facts. They get stereotyped as haters, and their opinions have no place in the public forum. Are the contradictions starting to become visible?
You mentioned, you used a term, people of color. So who are not the people of color?
Well, I would say white people are not people of color.
So you're saying that it's impossible for a black to be racist?
Yes.
How many of us would keep using this word, racism, if we found out that to a good many people it can only really mean one thing: a bad white person?
Have I been a racist? I like to think not. And I hope not.
I think that all of us growing up in this culture and in this life are a little bit racist. Am I aware of my racism? Yeah. I'm aware of my racism. Aware a lot of people I don't think are.
The conflict is you don't want to be a racist because you're black.
Are you a racist?
No, not at all. At least that I know.
Have you ever been a racist yourself?
No.
Never been?
No.
On a 1 to 10, 10 being a lot, and 1 being a little, how much racism is there in America today?
I'd say about a 9.
About a 9. So you feel racism is just everywhere?
Yeah, I believe it is, but I mean, I haven't experienced it myself.
At one point in any conversation about race, one issue must be addressed, and it is a touchy one. But the answer to this question is paramount if we want our conversation to be objective.
America never was a white nation.
Never?
Never. It was never a white nation.
If you want to get to whose country it was the Native Americans. Caucasians came and took that land from them.
Europeans. Europeans stole their land.
Matter of fact, this isn't even their country. They came and took a country, from people that opened their arms to them with love, and they deceived them.
The American Indians were oppressed and slaughtered in droves by the Europeans.
They were here. This was their land. I'm not sure how they got here or if they fought anyone.
What would you say to somebody who said every founding citizen of the United States of America was white?
I think that's a tough one.
What would you call a nation where every single citizen was white and where immigration was restricted to white Christians? Would that be a white nation? Why does this matter? Are we a white nation any longer? Once again, because of the disconnect, because of the anti-white bias that lies within the conventional wisdom on racism. Once again, if you accept the fact that America was founded as a white nation, then you must also accept the fact that her founding principles, which separate America from all other nations, were also developed by white men, not by a multicultural rainbow. And this fact drives the believers crazy. You see, it's okay to blame whites as a race for fuzzy historical discriminations, but it's a cardinal sin to credit whites as a race with anything.
Your forefathers came over and they did their dirty deed and took most of the land, deceived most of the people, and the rest they killed.
Now this is fascinating. Paul has absolutely no problem saying to my face, rather forcefully, that my forefathers came here and did their dirty deed. Now, the fact that he's completely wrong is so easily overlooked by today's believers, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But what is telling is that Paul has absolutely no problem with assigning collective racial guilt to all white people for presumably the way the American colonists treated the Indians. Can you see the contradiction? It's acceptable today to assign collective racial guilt to all whites for the actions of a minute fraction of them hundreds of years ago. Would it be acceptable today to assign collective racial guilt to any other races, for example, to blacks, let's say for the crimes that they themselves committed in this decade alone? Well, no, that would be racism. Get the picture? And just to clarify, I can trace my earliest ancestors here in America to the 1870s, after our Civil War. No forefather of mine ever killed an Indian or owned another human being, ever.